Right, so don't you have to read your raid stories now?
Tim. We have one.
But where's Tim?
Tim
Okay.
is raiding it.
The longship landed as the sun was rising, and Prince Friduhelm was in the lead. We all piled out behind him on the beach. There was a child who said, "Please don't raid us." And Prince Friduhelm looked at it for a while, then stabbed the child to death. Prince Friduhelm and King Osgurdon Mitchell led us into the village just as people were starting to run. They ran forward as some others went into the shacks, taking whatever they could back to the ships, as others followed behind them with torches, burning the shacks they had already visited. Steve the First followed the king and prince, and was immediately shot in the knee by an archer. He ripped the arrow out of his knee and continued to run forward. Steve the Second followed him and was met by a serf who stabbed him to death with a rusty pitchfork. The same serf was chopped in half by Steve the Third, but then Steve the Third went too close to a burning shack and burned his arm to a crisp, and a knight then chopped off the burned arm with his sword, but Steve the Third stabbed him with his knife. Steve the Fourth was running forward, and in an unfortunate turn of events, he tripped over Steve the Third's arm and impaled himself on his own sword.
Good job.
King Osgordon Mitchell yelled to us, "Release the Bon Jovi." Pepe undid the latch on the cage, and the Bon Jovi jumped out, grabbed the burning torch off of Steve the Second's dead body in one hand, the sword from Torvald's stash in the other, and Pepe's sword in his mouth, then went berserk. The Bon Jovi tried to kill all of the Normans he could find, including the ones who were dead. Meanwhile, Prince Friduhelm had found one of the bishops hidden in the church. He knocked him unconscious and dragged him back to the ships. After, he and King Osgordon Mitchell made their way to the castle and destroyed one wall with their bare hands. Back in the village, Steve the Third had attached his knives to his boots and ran after the retreating Normans, kicking them in the face and stabbing them with his knife boots. Olaf and Steve the Fifth then joined Steve the Third and the Bon Jovi, and together they killed all of the Normans who were resisting. Pepe then led the Bon Jovi back to the cage using the corpse of someone who had died. As he walked back to the ship, Steve the Third's ear was shot off by an arrow from a hidden knight. Steve the Third tripped over a rock and cut off his leg with his knife boots. While he was on the ground, another soldier jumped out of the shadows and cut out one of Steve the Third's eyes and also cut off his nose. He then passed out from blood loss, and Pepe dragged him back to the ship by his remaining ear. Pepe was holding a torch at the time, so Steve the Third's hair caught on fire. The king and prince then returned, after successfully destroying part of the castle, and we looked over what we had gained. We had most of the armor and food, we had kidnapped the bishop, and had burned everything down. We then made repairs to our ship and began the journey home.